All right, today we are jumping straight into a truly fascinating journey. We're unpacking a Divya Katha, a divine narrative that reveals the beautiful, profound, and honestly, sometimes outright hilarious relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotee. This isn't just a historical or mythological recap, we're really analyzing what happens when the ultimate power in the universe collides with absolute, unconditional love. Think about this for a second. What happens when the creator of the universe just decides to become the servant of a humble human? It literally flips everything we think we know about power and devotion completely upside down. As we'll see in today's explainer, true unyielding devotion actually forces the divine to rewrite the rules of the cosmos. Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the ultimate devotional surrender. To really grasp this connection, we've got to start at the catalyst of Madhav's spiritual awakening. So, Madhav's life changes in a flash. At just 21 years old, his wife passes away. And, instead of just grieving, it hits him. Worldly ties are temporary. He makes this massive leap, leaving his young children to Providence and heads straight for Puri. But here's the crazy part. When he gets there, he doesn't even go inside the temple. He just sits down on the beach weeping, completely refusing food and water for 3 whole days. He's literally punishing himself for wasting 21 years not serving the Lord. It's just a staggering level of dedication. And the divine response to that kind of surrender, it's immediate. Picture this. While Madhav Das is starving out on the beach, back in the grand temple, the magnificent Mahaprasad is being offered to Lord Jagannath. But he absolutely refuses to eat. He turns to Goddess Lakshmi and says, "My devotee has left everything for me. How can I eat when he is starving on the beach?" The empathy there is just astounding. The creator of the universe is losing his appetite because one single man is crying on the sand. So the Lord takes matters into his own hands. He takes the form of a young boy and personally delivers his own golden plates of Mahaprasad right to Madhav Das on the beach. But the next morning, total panic at the temple. The golden plate is missing. Well, a divine dream leads the king and the priests down to the beach where they find Madhav Das with the plate. When they respectfully bring him inside, texts actually describe the Lord literally dancing with joy on the altar upon seeing his devotee. You can see how the boundary between master and servant is already starting to blur. All right, shifting gears completely here. Section 2, the divine jackfruit heist. Yep, you heard that right. We're going from deep sorrow to absolute comedy. So here's a fun twist. Lord Jagannath is also Krishna, right? The mischievous butter thief from his childhood. One day, feeling kind of nostalgic, he turns to Madhav Das and says, "I get great food here, but I really miss stealing." He wants to sneak into the king's garden to swipe some jackfruits. Madhav Das suggests, "Well, let's take your brother Balaram." But the Lord is like, "No way." He complains Balaram is way too strict, gets angry too easily, and would just lecture him the whole time. It's such a charming, humanizing moment. The protector of the universe just wants a partner in crime. So he actually drafts the frail, elderly Madhav Das for this heist. And he gives him these incredibly specific rules. Get this. Rule 1, move with extreme speed, but make absolutely no noise. Rule 2, keep your eyes and ears open and do not blink. Just imagine the Supreme Being giving tactical Black Ops stealth advice to an old man who can barely even walk without a stick. It perfectly shows the playful intimacy they shared. Of course, the whole thing goes terribly wrong. They sneak into the garden at midnight. Madhav Das shimmies up the tree while the Lord waits down below. But Madhav Das totally forgets the rules and yells at the top of his lungs from the branches, asking the Lord which jackfruit he wants. Well, the gardener wakes up, and what does the brave, mighty Lord of the universe do? He bolts. He instantly runs away back to the temple, leaving poor Madhav Das to get caught, beaten, and tied up to the tree all night long. The next morning, the king comes out and is just horrified to find his guru tied up like that. Once he hears the hilarious truth about the Lord's midnight craving, the king is actually moved to tears and just donates the entire garden to Jagannath on the spot. Later on, when Madhav Das confronts the Lord and scolds him for bailing on him, the Lord just smiles. He jokes that because they got caught, his desire to steal is still unfulfilled to this very day. Moving right along, let's look at Section 3, defeating the arrogant scholar. This highlights a totally different dynamic, the ultimate clash between human ego and divine humility. So, this arrogant scholar named Digvijay travels all the way from Kashi down to Puri for one reason: to defeat Madhav Das in a debate and prove he's the smartest guy around. The contrast between these two is wild. The scholar is absolutely desperate for validation and fame. But Madhav Das, he knows victory and defeat are just illusions. So when the scholar shows up, Madhav Das refuses to even debate him. He just happily signs a piece of paper admitting defeat so the guy will leave him alone to pray. I mean, a true devotee has literally nothing to prove. But, the divine has other plans. The scholar proudly struts back to Kashi, gathers all the local intellectuals, and dramatically opens his letter to prove his big win. But the text had miraculously changed. Now it said, Madhav Das won, Digvijay lost. Oh, the scholar is furious. He marches right back to Puri, demanding a real debate, and he sets this incredibly cruel condition. The loser has to ride a donkey through town with their face painted black.
Madhav Das just asks for a moment to bathe and pray. And while he's inside the temple, Lord Jagannath steps in. He assumes the form of Madhav Das's young disciple, intercepts the scholar, and just effortlessly crushes him with these deep philosophical questions the guy can't even begin to wrap his head around. The scholar is completely humiliated. And, true to his own terrible rules, he's forced to ride that donkey with a blackened face. Now, when the real Madhav Das steps out and sees this highly respected scholar being paraded around on a donkey, he is horrified. He immediately frees the guy, runs straight to the altar, and starts scolding Lord Jagannath. He demands to know why he would do this to a respected man, and the Lord's reply is just so powerful. He says, "If anyone else insulted you, I wouldn't care, but I cannot bear to see my devotee humiliated." It really reveals this fierce, almost protective parental love. Okay, this brings us to our final part. Section 4, the Supreme Lord as Nurse. This is where we hit the absolute emotional pinnacle of their bond. Genuinely, ask yourself this. Would the creator of the universe stoop down to clean up the soiled, filthy clothes of a sick, helpless man? We always tend to picture God in grand majesty, right? In towering temples filled with gold and incense. But what does true divine love actually look like down in the grit and mess of human suffering? Well, Madhav Das, who's living very humbly out on the beach, falls incredibly ill. He contracts severe dysentery. It gets so bad he becomes too weak to even move to clean himself, and he's lying there completely helpless. Since he hasn't been to the temple in days, Lord Jagannath actually comes looking for him. And seeing his devotee in this awful state, the Lord doesn't just send a servant. No, the Lord himself becomes the nurse. For days, the Supreme Being cleans Madhav Das's body and washes his soiled clothes with his own hands. When Madhav Das finally regains enough consciousness to realize exactly who has been nursing him, he is devastated. He just weeps, asking, "Prabhu, you could have cured my illness instantly. Why put yourself through this terrible menial work?" The Lord's reply illustrates this absolutely profound spiritual law. He says, "I could cure you instantly, but you'd have to be reborn to clear your karma. I'd rather serve you now." Think about that. The Lord literally chose to suffer right alongside his devotee just to spare him from having to go through another cycle of life and death. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, whether it's bringing a plate of food to a starving man, acting as the getaway driver in a midnight robbery, defending someone's honor in a debate, or washing soiled clothes on a lonely beach, when a devotee surrenders their ego completely, that boundary completely dissolves. God ceases to be just some distant master. He becomes your ultimate caretaker, your closest friend, and, incredibly enough, your devoted servant. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. Are you ready to let go of your ego and surrender to a love that transcends the universe? Because the story of Madhav Das proves that the universe doesn't respond to our pride or our strength. It responds to the purity of our surrender. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep reflecting on that, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.